I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're taking a look at the charming world of Mary Sayers' delightful children's book. It is called Franky, the Cranky Crab. This tale captures the journey of a little crab on a quest for friendship along the beautiful beach. We will discover if Franky can overcome his crankiness and find the friend he is searching for. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Good River Print and Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Mary, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Hi, it's nice to see you too. Thank you
Great
for
to have you on
having
the
me.
show. I got to ask you, I know you wrote the book and you did the illustrations as well, and you can see the artwork behind you there. Did
Mhm.
the picture come first or did the book come first?
Oh, I think the book came first. The idea for the book came first. And it actually came because I was a school teacher and a school librarian. I spent 30 years in education, and I spent most of those years as a school librarian. And I worked with children of all ages. And I realized that as the years were going by, I felt like children were having a harder time coping with their emotions
Hmm.
and then dealing with their experiences, their personal experiences, especially with other students when they were on the school campus.
Hmm.
And it made me feel like we needed to get some good books out there about a character who's very emotional and can teach the kids just by reading the books and enjoying them how to cope with different emotions that they have, that you really have to think about things and respond, appropriately so that your relationships and your experiences are everything they're meant to be. So,
Yeah, hence Franky the Cranky Crab. Before we get
right.
into it, though, let me ask you this. Why do you think that children seem a little more emotionally charged these days than perhaps when you and I were growing up?
What really occurs to me is all the electronics.
Hmm.
I don't think that they're spending as much time with face-to-face communication with
Yeah.
people, and that it might be affecting them. So I'm sure parents are realizing it and seeing it, and I'm sure they're trying to find ways to get their children, with one-to-one communication and not so much on the phones and behind the games and,
Yeah.
and everything. So I really think that has a part in all of this.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I agree. I mean, kids today, and even some more mature people than kids, are
mhm,
afraid of face-to-face contact. They don't even want to pick up a phone and make a phone call. They want to do it through texting or through an
right.
app. They don't want to go into a restaurant and get food. They want it dropped at the door. I mean, it's kind of becoming an
Yes,
isolated society, right?
it really, I think that that is part of what's going on. And I think that it can be fixed. I
Hmm.
think I think that parents will eventually realize they need to talk to their kids more and teach them about their emotions. Just like we got taught when we were growing, you learn through the experiences.
Yeah.
When you have these experiences in life, that's how you learn to deal with your emotions.
Right. And
So,
we were just sent out to the neighborhood, go play. And
yes.
that was it. Can you imagine doing that to kids today? Go play. They would find their phone as fast as they could and start scrolling through it, you
But
know?
I think once they got out there, they would realize what they were missing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we used to pick our own teams and plan our own games, and there was learning involved in all of that. When
Right.
you went out and played, you were learning.
Yeah,
You were growing up and learning. So,
exactly. You're learning how to resolve conflict. You were learning how to get along with other children. You were learning on how to be a leader, how to
right.
follow rules. There were how to
Oh,
explore the neighborhood, how to be responsible for yourself. There were a lot of things we were learning that wasn't tied to a screen.
right. And
Yeah.
it is the way the world is going. So children today need to know how to use electronics wisely and responsibly. Both sides need to be balanced, I think. So,
Exactly, exactly. And it really does rewire your brain, the way you think of things when you
mhm.
live in a purely digital world, whether you're a youngster or an adult for sure. So Franky the Cranky Crab has a great niche here because it's helping children with their social skills, really. So
Right,
tell us the
right.
story of Franky the Cranky Crab.
Well, Frankie the Cranky Crab starts off down the beach, and his mama crab is actually encouraging him to get out there. He needs to get out there and see the world. So he starts down the beach and he experiences different things on his journey. And with each experience, he actually changes colors. So we call him a color shifting crab. And he changes colors depending on his mood. It's the emotion that causes the color. So if he's feeling sad about something, he changes to blue. Or if when he sat down in the first book, when he sat down and ate seaweed, he ended up turning green because he got ill from it. So he turned green, and different colors, different emotions bring on different colors. So we actually have him growing up in the series of books. I have like ideas for at least 17 books now. I'm working on book 4 and doing the artwork for book 3, but we have like 17 stories altogether, and he actually grows up through the series. And he has a family. He meets his true friend in the first couple of books, and then they have a family, and there's anything that can happen in real life can happen to Frankie. So there's all these different experiences, and he's learning that the experiences, the emotions that it brings about causes his color change.
Yeah.
So then he also tries to learn to master that. As he's going through the series, he wants to control his color changing. And then he can use it for different things. So kind of like camouflage.
Sure, sure. I also think it's great because children start looking at color as a symbol and not just as a literal.
Right.
That blue can mean blue on many different levels. And I think
Mhm.
that's important for children to take away as well as a young reader, don't you think?
Yes, and when you're reading, a lot of stories will use that. Like they'll just say somebody's feeling blue.
Right.
And then when the children have read the series about Frankie, they would understand what that means when they say somebody's feeling blue, or or somebody's really feeling uh, angry, and
Right.
their red is showing. So
Exactly. Or
now
feeling
you
sick and
now
they're
you know
green
what.
or
And so
yeah.
they can connect the emotion to a color.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about the illustration for this book. These look like paintings. Do you paint them and then reproduce them
Well,
photograph them and reproduce them that way? Tell us about that.
a lot of people ask me about it, and what I do is I actually paint tissue paper. So I make patterns and different tissue paper in different colors. I have a picture here that I start with. I'll hold it up and you can see
Sure.
what I start with. I don't know how much of this you'll be able to see because they're rather large. But like here's a picture here
Hmm.
that I would start with. It's a line drawing.
Right.
Now, what I would do from here is I would take the different colors of tissue paper. I have a whole collection of painted tissue paper with different patterns. Just that's
Hmm.
the real artistic part of it. And I have to decide what color and what tissue paper, what patterns to use, and I cut them in.
So it's almost like a
They're actually,
collage.
they're actually
Yeah.
cut in.
Yeah.
So
Very, very
I
cool.
have a set of tools that I use to cut the tissue paper with,
Hmm.
and we use a paper cement, and we actually cut the tissue into the artwork.
Very, very interesting. Is there a name for this type of art? Because I've never heard of it before. Is this
Um,
something you
you know,
created?
I'll tell you where I got this from. I don't know if you'll be able to use this or not, but um, as a librarian, you uh, I read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books over the years to children, and one of my favorite authors was Eric Carle.
Hmm.
And Eric Carle wrote the book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar,
Hmm.
and many, many other books. And this is a style I think he used. And I had used a video at one point in my career about Eric Carle, and he shared it with the children on the video. And it was just such a new thing to me. And I thought, I'm going to try that, try to do that form of artwork. And I did, and it comes out so colorful. But I do think mine's a little bit different than his because he used a lot of white space around the subjects on his page, where I try to fill in the whole picture.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it was a wonderful type of artwork, and people have asked me, how do you get that sky in the background to look like that? It has to be awfully hard to paint it that way. Well, I don't paint it that way. I paint the tissue paper that way.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah,
And the colors are very vivid. They look like, tropical colors. They look like something you might find in the Caribbean or something. Yeah.
Yes, and I think they come out beautiful.
I agree.
Now, these pictures in the background are for my next book. They're for The Message in the Bottle. And the one right in the center here is Franky, and he's riding the bottle with the message in it back to shore.
Amazing.
Because he found the bottle, and the only way he could get it was to jump on top of it and ride it back to shore. So that's going to be the cover for the next book.
Wonderful. So you have 17 books, you said, that are either done or in the making, right?
They're outlined. And what I do is, as I'm working on the art for like book 3, I'm writing book 4. So it kind of just keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a really good outline for each of them, so it helps me to write them.
Let's talk. This is book 4, Franky the Cranky Crab, right?
The series is called Franky the Cranky Crab at this point. And then book 2 is called Sea Glass Jack Smith. And then book 3 is The Message in a Bottle, A Cry for Help. And now I'm working on the story for book 4, which is called Happy Birthday, Franky. And then I cross out Franky and put Clarice because, well, I have to tell you, the characters Franky and Clarice are named after my parents.
Okay.
And my dad was Frank, and my mother was Clarice. And they in real life shared the same birthday.
Wow.
So book 4 is Happy Birthday, Franky, because she's going to throw a surprise party for him. And he feels left out because he doesn't get an invitation to this big beach bash that's going on. So that's the emotion we're dealing with, that emotion of being left out, not included. And then he realizes that what's going on, and he with a friend flips the party on her and surprises her instead. So it's a cute story.
It is a cute story. Very, very original.
Really
it's cute that they have the same birthday. It's cute that it's inspired by your parents. Of course, I have to ask you, was Dad cranky? No, I won't.
You know what? As he got older, he got a little bit, a little cranky.
Yeah.
That's why it's named Cranky Franky.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Now, of course, this reminds me a little bit of SpongeBob SquarePants in a way, although that tends to not really have much educational value at all. I think it's made for, 25-year-old frat boys and not really for kids. But there is certainly an audience of young people who are mesmerized by undersea adventures, right?
Right. And not only that, I really do believe that this series of stories, if I'm trying to write them so they don't seem educational. I would just love the children to want to read them because they're good stories and that they can relate to them. I've tried to make the subjects of the stories relevant and current. Like I have one that's called Keep Your Phone to Your Selfie. Which deals with the cell phones.
Right.
And I have there's a series of 3 books coming up soon that's called 3 Little Frankies, A Family Reveal. And this is where Franky starts to learn camouflage and controlling his colors. He wants to reveal what their new little crablings are going to be.
Right.
Then it's followed by It's Time, Franky. And we've got books for the holidays, stories for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one called Sea Searching for the Stars,
Mm-hmm.
which is about the talent shows on TV,
Mm-hmm.
with just all kinds of really current titles. I have one that I think is going to be a very good story called Strike Three, You're Out. And I
Mm-hmm.
just thought of this one when I was writing The Message in the Bottle, but it's about winning and losing.
Yeah,
And it's about actually letting our children lose. They have to be able to lose a game and
exactly.
understand, to fully understand what it means to win.
Right, right. And
And
to have the
so,
drive to win, to have that
mhm,
competitive nature.
that's right.
Nobody, that's not bad. We have
No,
to be competitive in this world. There's only so many spaces in the top schools. There's only so many spaces in the top
right,
companies. There's only
exactly.
so much room at the top. So,
That's right.
and in whether it's in sports or whether it's in business. So, yeah, we
Hmm.
do have to learn to lose. So it's a great, great lesson
Yeah.
for sure.
I have one called Get Your Conch at crabcestry.c. So, I mean, there's a lot of stories here, and they are about things that are happening now
Oh,
and
that's great.
are important now. So I hope that it appeals to more than just the young reader. I think that if it does eventually become like a series on television, like
Yep.
SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants did, I hope that it opens up the audience. I hope
Mhm.
that audiences of all ages will be able to watch and enjoy.
Exactly, exactly. And like
Yes.
you said, you're kind of making it very inclusive by adding a lot of contemporary topics
Mhm.
to the theme of the books, which I think is wonderful. I understand you're working on a screenplay. Tell me about that.
Well, what we're doing is we're combining the Sea Glass Jack's myth. Sea Glass Jack is the villain in the story.
Hmm.
It's Franky's rival. We're combining that story, which will introduce the series and basically give viewers and readers the complete idea of what lies ahead. We're going to combine it with the summer story about ocean conservation called The Message in a Bottle, A Cry for Help.
Mm.
So um, as we combine those two stories, uh, some of the characters in Rocky Shore, which is the setting of the story, the Sheriff Joan and her seahorse get caught in a crabber's net.
Mm.
And Franky is constantly cleaning up his area of the beach. And it's the pollution that's left by humans is becoming a problem. And then Sea Star Sheriff Joan and her seahorse Timmy get caught in this rope, this
Mm.
net, and they need to be saved because they're drifting toward land. So Franky in this screenplay takes on leadership and teamwork skills.
Mm.
And he learns how to be a leader, and he saves uh, Sheriff Joan and her seahorse. And then, of course, it's about holding the responsible polluter, holding them responsible for what they did.
Mm.
And that happens at the end. And we have a character called Walter the Wise Old Sea Turtle.
Mm.
And Walter shows up in many of the books because it's who Franky goes to often for advice, and some of the other characters too. And I call that walking the dock. They
Uh,
walk the dock and they sit at the end, and Walter comes up from the depths below, and he's very wise because he's lived a long life.
yeah.
And so they go to him for advice, and he gets advice from Walter about how to solve his pollution problem,
Hmm.
and they form committees, and it's a really great story.
Yeah. No, it
So
sounds like a great story.
yeah, and I
And
think it would make a great movie.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's got a lot of different layers there
Hmm.
for children to understand and to value, and will
Hmm.
teach them a lot of important lessons about nature and conservation
Right.
and resolution of problems and issues. I think it sounds great. Have you test marketed these stories on kids? Have you done any reading to them? Have you?
Good River has done some things, and we are getting a lot of feedback with in regards to like reviews. The
Yep.
reviews that we're getting from people who've purchased and read, and the way their children are reacting have been wonderful, really
Great.
wonderful. So, as you know, I hope it keeps up in that direction,
Yep.
because I think the stories are just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like, you really have got this, you know what I mean? And that 17 books is a lot of stories, but you've got your
Yeah.
character and you're building new, different episodes for each one.
Mhm.
And I think
We
that's
actually
important.
have 20 different characters in the series so far.
That's great.
They're going to be added gradually through the different books, because you can't add them all at once, but we're gradually adding them. Like the second book was when we introduced Sea Glass Jack,
Hmm.
and his first mate is an octopus called Stretch.
Hmm.
And we have Walter, the wise old sea turtle, who comes in book 3 with the message in the bottle. And so we've got different, and then of course, when they have the family, there's going to be 3 little crabs. One is going to be a little girl crab, and her name is going to be Carly, and she's going to be the one who's like her dad. She's going to have a little bit of a crankiness to her character.
Yeah,
And we will have Carly, Marley, and Harley will be the
right.
3 little crablings. And then, of course, once you have a family, there's so many different things that can happen.
Yeah,
Everything that can happen can be a new book.
exactly. Anything that could happen to you in real life can happen to these crabs because you've created
Right.
a family. Like you said, from holidays to issues with conservation and everything in between.
Hmm.
Yeah. When did you
Yes.
first come up with the idea of choosing a crab as your main character?
That was with my father, and that
Okay.
was like probably going back 10 years ago.
Hmm.
He was still alive, and he was getting older and getting crankier with his age. And we were having a day, and he was just not being himself.
Hmm.
And I said, "Boy, you're really cranky today. I could write a book about you. I could write a character. I think I could call it Franky the Cranky Crab." And it just came out. And here I am.
Yep, exactly. Well, it was good he was in a bad mood that day because it was inspiration behind all of
That's
these
right, he
wonderful
was.
books. In this digital age where kids seem to be consuming so much video and reading less and less, as a librarian, obviously the printed word is so important. I mean, I think your pictures are a great starting point for children's
Mhm.
imaginations, but for them to create the images in their mind is so
That's
important too,
right.
don't you think?
Yes, and when I was brought into the library, I started out as a teacher in the classroom, and a
Mhm.
principal asked me would I be interested in becoming a school librarian, where I was a teaching librarian. And what I did was I taught children research skills, and I taught them writing skills.
Mm.
So I worked on those with the children when they were in the library. And we talked a lot about picture books, because a lot of children, especially when they got to the age of like 10,
Mm.
would think that they shouldn't be reading picture books anymore, but they enjoyed them.
Yeah.
And I would try to teach them that picture books are called picture books only because you can read them in a short sitting,
Mhm.
where yeah, they're not that long, and they usually have pictures on every page. And it doesn't mean that they're for little kids. You can have picture books that are written for adults.
Yeah.
We have nonfiction books that are just loaded with pictures and photographs, and they're filled with non-fictional information for adult reading.
Mm.
And even adults can sit down and enjoy a good picture book. So,
Absolutely.
teaching that to the children was important, that the pictures are important, but the writing is too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like the first question you asked, did I think of the picture first, or did I think of the story first?
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes either way.
Mm.
Some people see the picture first and write about the picture. Other people, and I think of students specifically, one of the ways I would teach them how to get over writer's block was if they stopped and drew a picture right where they're blocked. What's happening right where you're blocked? Now
Yeah.
try to draw the picture for what happens next,
Yeah.
and then write about it. And it really helped. Having ideas like that for writing really helped. And they're both equally important, the writing and the picture in a picture book. So
Absolutely. Who is your target audience for the book?
for reading the book, I would say children from 6 to 10 years old.
Mm.
But when you think about how the series can be used by parents just
Mhm.
subliminally to expose their children to the idea of how to deal with their emotions, of recognize what's going on and what it means to feel different ways. I think there's a whole audience of adults that would find the book very, very helpful. And
Mhm.
then once they start reading, they would realize that it's an enjoyable series on
Mhm.
top of it all. And then if you get into the idea of making like animated movies or a television series out of them, you're going to open up the audience to young and old readers alike, all ages actually.
Exactly. And the books have a lot of content. It's not just like a picture, a line, a picture, a line. There's quite a
No.
bit of text there, quite a bit of storytelling, right?
Yes, yes, there is. They're full. And the further I go into the series, the stories beyond book two, when we introduced Franky and the villain,
Mm.
beyond that, I think that most of the stories are really packed full of content. They really have a lot of depth and layers to the stories.
Including a song, Pappy's Song, I saw in one book that I
Yes.
read. Tell us about Pappy's
Yes,
Song.
Happy Song. That tells about the myth of Franky. That's why Sea Glass Jack thinks Franky, he wants to capture Franky because he thinks that if he does, that this mythical crab of many colors will bring him a lifetime of good luck and good
Mm.
fortune. So he's always trying to capture him.
So you've got this whole multimedia thing down because you've got great text and great storytelling. You've got original artwork that's created in a very original way. And then now you even have music that goes with it as well. So I think
Yes,
this
I
is
even made a song. I even made a song for the third book at the end. It goes along with If You're Happy and You Know It.
mhm.
So it's about the beach being clean. If it's better than it was, click your claws. If it's better than it was, click your claws.
That's
And if
cute.
the beach is cleaner now, then you did your part somehow. So
Nice.
we have that song at the end of book three. And I think as we go through the series, like Sea Searching for the Stars is going to have a real musical um, content to it
Mhm.
because of the subject matter. And we're going to find out that Franky's a little bit musical,
Mhm.
that people didn't know that the readers didn't know that, but he's actually a little musical. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so we try to include that.
That's great. That's great. Like I said, I think children would love that, and I can picture, like I said, if this did become an animated series or a series of films, then you could have some of those songs that are not only entertaining, but instructive to children as well.
Right. And
Yeah.
even with the one with If You're Happy and You Know It, if with that song that we made, I actually made a little bit of a line dance to go with it too. So
That's great.
it's
And the
it's
book
kind of,
that's coming out next is the one about the message in the bottle?
yes, it's we hope to have it out in July,
Mhm.
but no later than August, I think.
Okay.
I'm working on the artwork. The story is written,
Wonderful.
and so hopefully it'll be out just in time for summer.
Great, great. Give us the title of that one again.
It's called the title of the series will be is now Franky the Cranky Crab,
Right.
and the book is called The Message in a Bottle: A Cry for Help.
Sounds great. Looking
Mhm.
forward to it. The entire series of Franky the Cranky Crab
Mhm.
is wonderful, sounds wonderful. There'll be at least 17 books in this series.
Mhm.
There some already available for sale, some
Mhm.
coming out very soon, and others are percolating up here in
Oh
Mary
yes.
Sayers' very creative brain. The tale
Oh, thank
captures the
you.
journey of a little crab on a quest for friendship along a beautiful beach, and children will discover if Franky can overcome his crankiness and
Right.
find the friend he is searching for. And he has lots of other adventures as well, from the holidays to beach conservation to just about anything you can
Anything
think
you.
of in
Mhm.
between. Mary,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. And to the
Oh.
folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.